you want to, for your client, for your lender, for your owner of that property that you're representing, you're going to want to know those things. We had a $740,000 listing I just listed last week. It's just over 10,000 square foot industrial building, turnkey. It was on the market for $550 for the last 6 months of the redemption because the owner, or the previous owner, knew his rights to try to sell it during the redemption period. What did he do? He listed it with the biggest brokerage in town. The biggest brokerage in town brought him 3 over-asking offers. He denied all 3, never presented them as a short sale because out of spite, he knew his rights. After that 6-month period expired and he got his 30-day notice to evict, he went and filed a Chapter 7 with his first name and his wife's maiden name. What does he do 30 days later when we called him out on it? He files a Chapter 11 with his name and his son, and he put his son's first name and his last name. The lawyers don't care. You pay $150 to file it. You can do any lawsuit you want. You can file the bankruptcy. 30 days after that, what does he do? Files a Chapter 13. Okay, it took me almost 14 months to get this property. First day on the, actually I didn't even have it on the market. Those 3 same offers, I already have any one of those 3 accepted as soon as we have the list price. Now that we got the list price last week, we're at highest and best with all 3 offers. So you need to know what's going on. You need to be in communication with these attorneys and with that borrower. You know, don't say I'm here to evict you. You guys know the ropes, dealing with some residential and also just dealing with clients. You know, be a people person, whether or not you're talking to your asset manager or talking to that person who, you know, his life's in turmoil. Any other questions? Absolutely, and surprisingly, it's not much more than the residential. You know, what we see with our higher end residential, if you're lucky to get $1,000 to $2,500, the most I've ever paid, even for $1 million property, is $2,500 for cash for keys. Most of those times, those people are so embarrassed, they won't deal with you. They'd rather say, hey, evict me, or they'll move out. So I still try to get it for them. You know, it's a nice thing to do. I tell them, listen, even if you don't want it, it will help you with your closing or your moving costs, storage costs, wherever you're going. It's going to help you one way or another. Some people just want to be done with the headache. You need to get in good communication with them. And by you going to that property and speaking to them directly, that's how you're going to be in good communication. If you send some contractor who's on his cell phone with his girlfriend arguing and taking pictures of the building, and the guy walks outside and says, what are you doing on my property? Oh, I'm taking pictures for the foreclosure real estate agent. You know, that's not going to help you out. But yes, there is cash for keys, and it's pretty much the same as residential. It's probably $1,000 to $2,500 per property. In the way back. Yeah, I usually give about $500 per unit. You know, depending on, and when I say $500 a unit, those are usually apartment buildings where they're paying $350 to $550 a month in rent anyway. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my question is about expenses, reimbursement, and capitalization, especially in California and Southern California. You may be looking at cash for keys for residential anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 as a basic starting point, considering people's monthly payments. What do you see in terms of, especially with profitability and prices being down? How are you managing that situation for yourself? What you have to make choices about which banks you will work for?
There are a couple banks I will not work with. I won't say their names. They don't work in my business model. You need to, don't go out. There was mentioned tonight that there's a list from the NRBA that there's 1,550 asset management company names, asset manager names, their phone numbers, and their email addresses. What should I do? Well, I want to be an REO agent, whether it's commercial or residential. Do I go email all of them? No, because I can't handle that workload. Do one at a time. Get in with one bank. I don't care if it's a local community bank, which are some of the best banks to approach first. That would be my #1 recommendation. If you want a commercial listing, go to your local credit union. After that, go to the big chains that are in your community, but find out if it's National City, where's their Michigan corporate headquarters? Show up there. Look nice. All right? don't think I show up to a 24-unit apartment building in a suit and tie. All right? I show up in construction boots, dirty jeans, scruffy face, a hat, and not a nice jacket, all right? A sweatshirt. You can't show up like that. You got to realize who you're dealing with. If you're showing up at a prominent business who happens to be in foreclosure, all right, look nice. If you're showing up at a ghetto apartment building or a ghetto retail center, you have to be approachable, all right? It's very, very important. But any other questions?
Could you just expand on, considering your price point and gross commissions and the amount of money you might outlay and how old it is?
Well, money you're outlaying, I mentioned these two guys because I'm jealous of them. That one sold 600 properties last year, another one sold 800. One guy has over $355,000 in property preservation fees owed to him by the banks that he works with. He works with over 60 banks. I work with 24 banks. At any given time, you need to have money to make money in this business. All right, you need to be able to pay your contractor the $500 or $800 a week, and then you need to wait for your trash out check to come. One of my banks pays, and it's a turnaround time the day that they receive it in the mail. So now I realize that I overnight it to them. I get my money back less than 48 hours later. I billed them $9,800 last week. I'm going to get my money hopefully by Friday. So some banks pay very quick. Some I haven't seen money since last June. So you need to realize that. I've spoken to a couple people tonight about proper REO software. Some stuff, and I'm sure the organization is going to come up with the proper software for everybody, but you need to realize what software works best in your personal business model, because that software either can make you do triple the amount of work by re-inputting and re-inputting your information into these software programs. I use Excel spreadsheets. I came up with a couple specific ones that work for me, work for my business model. I know to check them. I know what's in redemption. I know what's active. I know when the redemption period expired, when I took it over as a listing, and the last time I did a BPO. Usually you'll get a commercial REO listing for 1 year. There's no fixed timeline, but it's usually about a year. And every 6 months you need to do an updated BPO. Or if something devastating happens to that property, pick up that phone and call your asset manager and say, hey, a semi-truck ran through the front of that building last week in an ice storm. All right, we need to reevaluate the price. I need to do a new BPO. Any other questions?
What do you do with quiet enjoyment? What do you do with quiet enjoyment clauses under leases in, let's say, a retail center?
I don't enjoy them.
You don't do anything.
I'm teasing. With a commercial foreclosure, the lease expires. Every time, if there's a tenant that I keep in that property, I sign them, and I use I used to have, I accumulated some of the best lease agreements and purchase agreements, whether I was a buyer's agent or representing just a seller, if I was a listing agent. I had them so 100% geared towards my client that when I've gone to court, the judge is saying, this thing's too good, okay? You can't do this to people. Now I just use standard state forms. I print out an addendum, or in the additional conditions section of that state purchase agreement, I write, seller is the sole owner, or there's a new owner of record. I can give you the sentences, I can email them to you, but basically there's a new owner of record. Said tenant is on a new lease agreement that is a month-to-month, it's a 1-year lease agreement on a month-to-month basis. It renews itself basically every 30 days upon prompt payment on the 1st of the month. They have till the 5th of the month. If they don't pay by the 5th of that month, then they end up, that's their automatic 30-day notice to vacate. If at any time that seller lists and sells that property, he has the sole authority to give that tenant a 30-day notice to vacate. And if that tenant elects to purchase that property during the listing period, we will credit them their rent that they've paid since the new owner record took over. I'll give them a credit towards their closing costs. So, I mean, it gives them a little bit of pep in their step to go get a loan and work that out. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.